By both Minister Tolley and Mr Farfoy, I commend the bill.
I call Sir William Seo.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Happy to take a call on this particular bill. And just note that this bill here makes clear the definition of what a military-style semi-automatic firearm is. I also note that it will allow regulations to be made that would declare what is a military-style semi-automatic firearm and what its distinctive features are. I also note that it provides for appeal rights to those firearm owners, to the district court, and particularly firearm owners who may disagree with the definition given to their firearm, whether it's classified as a military-style semi-automatic or not. And it places restrictions on the importation of air guns that may look real, like real pistols or military-style semi-automatic firearms. I think it would be disturbing for most New Zealanders when they hear of the background to this, that as a result of a court case of the High Court in Palmerston North in 2010, the police had difficulty in trying to determine with certainty which firearms would be classified as semi-automatic style firearms or not. And whilst these definitions of the bill are important from a legal perspective, especially to ensure that those using illegal firearms or those holding a firearm without a permit are appropriately prosecuted, I think for most New Zealanders, Mr. Speaker, they may not appreciate it. I think, and I say that because I think for most New Zealanders, they would be surprised by the numbers that the Minister has articulated about the high levels of illegal firearms or high levels of semi-automatic guns. After all, most New Zealanders would say a gun is a gun. And the sole purpose of a gun, for most of us who are not enthusiasts, it releases a projectile at high speed and it will cause harm, it will kill, it will maim. And those bullets from that gun do not discriminate. It will kill, maim, or snuff out alive, whether animal or human being. Now, I've not had the privilege of sitting on the committee, and so I did not get the opportunity to hear the submission from the public. And I wish I had, because it appears that the committee had some very difficult issues to try and cope with. 257 submissions, 71 who've made personal submissions. And I think those submissions are quite valuable, as for those of us who don't have the experience in firearms, look to those who do have the expertise in this particular field. But I've got some personal experiences that I'd like to share with the House, because I don't know how many people have been shot at. I don't know whether you've sat next to a person who accidentally shot themselves in the arm. And certainly closer to home, we've had a young man in 2009, 17 years old, who was accidentally shot by mistake. And so those points really show how I personally feel about the issue of firearm. I mean, some years ago, I visited some relatives in the United States, and during that visit I happened to be in a car that was driving one way, and there was another car coming towards us, and as we stopped the other car wouldn't move, and so the driver of our car went to confront this car, and they backed up, pulled out what appeared to be an automatic pistol and started shooting at the car that I was in. That was scary. It didn't hurt anybody, but certainly my aunt sitting in the back was scared stiff. I was sort of oblivious. I didn't know what had just happened, but there's certainly 3 bullet holes in the car that we were sitting in. In that same trip, I had a relative who was so gung-ho about showing off that he had purchased a pistol, and I wasn't paying attention, but sitting next to me, as he pushed the clip in, he accidentally released the safety latch and shot himself clean in the arm here. Now, it didn't hit any bones, But again, that was quite scary. And I suppose the matter that weighs heavily on our community is when a young man of 17 years was shot, killed, leaving a partner and a young child behind. And admittedly, while that was by mistake by the police, it does bring home the fact that these firearms, semi-automatic or not, cause harm to our society, kill, and no one should be in a situation where they are either harmed or die from a gun, whether police or members of the public. And I think it's right that the Labour Party support this bill because I think it is right that the police have the powers to be able to prosecute anyone who brings firearms to this country illegally, who has a gun without a permit. But I think, whilst it's outside the scope of this bill, my colleague Chris Whawhoi said that Labour did seek to have an independent arms advisory group, and I think the police ought to look into that. I think given the powers, the more powers that we give to the police, and given the need for the police themselves to arm, I think there would be some serious concerns throughout this country about where we are heading as a country, and particularly the amount of power that police will have with regard to firearms, but also about what we do about the illegal firearms. I mean, I think it is disturbing for people to hear that we allow, for the sake of sports, semi-automatic firearms. And I'm not sure, because this is not my area, I'm not sure just how safe it is, and whether those who receive permits to hold such firearms do get the training, are in a situation where they know how to handle a firearm. And so I think there is room for the Minister for the Police to consider that independent arms advisory group and perhaps look at the scope of that extending beyond just simply classifying what the features of a certain firearm is. I note the Minister said in a second reading speech that the bill does not seek to, and I quote, radically alter the status quo. And that may be so for military-style semi-automatic firearms. But I think, there's been radical alteration to the foundation of our country as a result of some of the other legislation that this government has put up. We've moved from an economy that once upon a time valued progressive taxation, where everyone was paying their fair share based on their ability to pay, and now we are in an economy where those on the highest income pay less and those on low incomes pay more. And as a result of this government's austerity measures throughout, the public sector has been under constant attack. The point I'm making, sir, is it's a symbolism. We've talked about this bill not radically altering the status quo, but I'm making a comparison to what is happening with our economy. And I think that there's been radical change in that. The Minister also said that the bill provides for the meaning of the term pistol grip to be spelled out clearly in the regulation with the assistance of illustration. I would say that there's been numerous illustrations of incompetency by this government in their 4 years term. There's been debate whether a pistol grip, sir, is a feature of a military-style semi-automatic firearm or not. And this is similar to the debate that we currently have, whether this government has a firm grip on this economy or not. And I would say, sir, that this government has preferred not to have a grip on this economy, and that's why we are in the mess that we're in. With only today, sir, only today, we mark the 50th New Zealander leaving our shores for Australia. That's another example, sir, of this government not having a firm grip on where this country is heading.
I call David Clendon.
Thank you, Mr.